Well, I want to start the day with a story. I love to tell stories. This is a story, you've heard stories like this before, with a little twist. Young woman was shopping with her kids at the supermarket. Got to the checkout and realized that the bill was $12 more than she had with her. So she started taking things out of the bag. The man behind her said, "Oh, stop, let me, here, take 20 bucks. And she protests a little bit. "Oh, no, I can't take money from you. You don't need to do that. I don't need everything, I'll just take it out." And he said, No, take the 20 bucks. She said, "Well, sir, it just doesn't feel right." He said, "Listen, my mother's in the hospital with cancer. And every day I go visit my mother, I take her flowers. And this morning I went in and she ripped me apart. She said, 'Stop wasting your money to kill flowers. Use your money to do something good for people. So here, take my mother's flowers.'"
Oh.
Of course she did. So everyone in that story showed compassion. The mom for flowers in her son, the son for his mother, the woman for the man who offered from himself and from his mother. So what's keeping us from showing that kind of compassion? What is it? Some of us have more compassion in our lives than others. Some of us get more opportunity to share compassion than others. So the topic for today, compassion begins within. And I would kind of subtitle it, "What's keeping you from expressing your compassion?" The outline was submitted by Reverend Dr. Patrick Cameron from the Edmonton CSL. And I can tell it's Edmonton because all the funny spellings, colors, O-U-R-S, center, C-E-N-T-R-E, it's funny. And well, from the outline, there's a book of the month, and it's Eye of the Storm. Not I, but single I, from Reverend Dr. Gary Simmons. And we'll actually get back to that. Now, the Dalai Lama has frequently spoke about the need for compassion. Here's one of his simple, wonderful quotes about compassion. "Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive." That's what his expression. Dr. Holmes also talks frequently about compassion. "Humanity and divinity will be identical when we recognize divinity in humanity. We must learn to see through the apparent, to judge not according to appearances, to realize that at the center of every person's soul is spirit enthroned. Compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding, and in the unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. Compassion is the most gentle of all human virtues, for it is the outpouring of the divine giving us through all. When the members of a community love one another, that community is solid. May not be large, but it's solid and happy. Nations are bound together by common interests, common affections. Communities, every bit as much. When the whole world realizes this truth, it will unite in thought and in action. Love alone can solve the world's problems. and bring about the day of universal peace. I'm sure we've all sat around and wondered how to solve the world's problems. There it is. Love, compassion. You and I, each one of us, has someone that, upon whom we just lavish a great deal of affection. It's natural. It's desirable. But would we actually love those people any less if we extended that love to all of humanity? No. Too often we're afraid of letting go of the little good that we think we hold in our hand because we're afraid we'll lose it. We don't realize that only as we release the good can we expect more good. Einstein says, our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. So Einstein would have loved to be chasing the flowers for the last 3 weeks. Dr. Holmes has a reader on practical wisdom. I'm not even all that familiar with it, but I have the quotes here. Have you seen it, Kate? Yeah, I don't know it. Suppose we make a daily habit of feeling that we like people and they like us. We belong to them and they belong to us. In a real sense, everyone we meet is part of our family, to love, to enjoy. So then, let's meditate on that thought. My desire is that everyone I meet will feel the warmth and color of my affection. My purpose is that a feeling of goodwill shall pass from me to others. Today I embrace the world in this affection and desire so that good shall come to everyone. That's end quote. It often seems that the path we are asked to walk in this life is the path of the spiritual warrior, the compassionate path. And the path of the spiritual warrior is to calmly and peacefully, while looking into the mouth of the dragon, remember we are divine emissaries to think, act, and feel accordingly. Sometimes we have to look at a thing long enough until that thing no longer has power over us. So what is it that keeps us from expressing that which we know lives within each one of us? Do we have a sense that the universe is working for us or against us? If you answered or thought against, ask yourself, how would your life be different if you lived as if nothing and no one was against you? I'd have to ask myself, what if none of my animals were working against me? In the book I mentioned, Eye of the Storm, remember it's I, not good with letters, not I of the Storm. Reverend Dr. Gary tells a story about meeting with a Hindu astrologer. And the purpose of the meeting wasn't to forecast his future, but to awaken to his future. The astrologer, I didn't even know there was Hindu astrology. So anyway, they asked for 5 significant events and 5 disappointments. And he had to write them down. So they were reviewing the list and going over it in vivid detail. When Gary began to feel a little embarrassment and uncomfortable with all the details and how much of himself he was exposing, when the Hindu ascetic looked at him and said, "No one is against you, not even your own life. is against you. So, continuing to sense there was still some uneasiness, the astrologer told him, the future can only be regarded as probabilities, floating upon a sea of infinite possibilities. Probabilities floating on a sea of infinite possibilities. Sounds like modern day physics to me. I don't know if the Hindu astrologer had a PhD in physics, but possibly. What makes us so predictable is that we continue to place our attention and awareness in the present moment, in the context, though, of our past. What influence does our past continue to play in us? It's our consciousness poured into the creative framework of attention and awareness that sets in motion the forces that organize the entire manifest universe. Our attention does that. So why would we let our attention dwell on the past? If our consciousness remains on the same old ideas, events, people, we're in bondage to the past. And if our attention is mesmerized according to our old ingrained patterns of awareness, our future is simply an extended line from here to tomorrow. And that's what makes our futures predictable. Let's go for unpredictable. Think about how that could apply in your relationships. If we keep doing the same things, even with different people, can we really expect different results? Yet each relationship we enjoy or suffer has a lesson in it for us. I saw something on Facebook that I reposted last week, so maybe some of you saw it. When something changes within you, things change outside of you. I thought that was really sage advice. So we have to look at this now and the future differently than we did in the past. If one appears to have failed, he, she could realize that there are no failures in the universe. That's a quote from Dr. Holmes in Science of the Mind. For those following along at home, that's page 302. In his book, Eye of the Storm, Reverend Gary spoke of his personal many, he doesn't say how many, failed marriages. Each wife experience has given me the insight into how I have placed the burden of my well-being on someone else. Moyer, the Hindu astrologer, continued, can you see how everything that is for you or against you has roots within you? Whether it's for you or against you, comes from you. No one is against you. Make your path about proving that as your truth. And then you will discover what your wholeness really is. Our lives are filled with real and imagined dangers, or so it seems. Is it any wonder we've created this virtual reality out of fears and insecurities? And then we superimpose that upon the landscape of our daily lives? And here's a few thoughts, questions for you to think about. No need to answer them now. How comfortable are you with conflict? Not many of us are going to really like that one. Make a list of inner resources. What inner resources do you need in order to manage threatening situations? We're Recall the times when you felt connected to wholeness and your self-worth. How much energy do you spend protecting or defending yourself from real or imaginary dangers? So how can we begin to isolate ourselves from that eye of the storm that prevents us from really achieving a whole new paradigm of wholeness? Science of Mind, page 34. There is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness, and insofar as it operates, is God. So in a spiritual context, wholeness is the energy of communion, principle, purpose, non-resistance. We have a dog that is non-resistant. When we go to bring her in, she lays down and flops, and she's 125 pounds. I call her Gandhi. She's non-resistant. Try to get her on her feet. She distracted me, I didn't too. Wholeness is not outside of you, nor is it separate from you. Apparently I have some Gandhi principles because that dog responds to me in that way. But wholeness is the nature of your being. Nothing can oppose you. As students of the truth, we must eventually reconcile ourselves to the principle that there is no force in the universe which opposes the life of each one of us. Science of Mind, I'm going to read this long quote. Begin quote. Truth knows no opposites. End quote. Truth knows no opposites. We've all heard about the calm within the eye of the storm. Have you ever asked yourself why it's calm within the storm? Why the epicenter is calm? It's a single theoretical point in space where the forces of the storm are in perfect equilibrium. I never thought of it that way. At the eye, there is peace, calm, clarity, stillness. If you've been in the eye of the storm, you know it's crazy how quiet it is. The storm of conflict also possesses a center. It calls this center, or Dr. Reverend Gary calls that center the eye of the storm. As you can surmise from this analogy, the eye of the storm is about your wholeness and your spiritual essence. Life is all about mind over matter. If I don't mind, it don't matter. Here's a quote from Dr. Holmes. Only those who can see the invisible can do the impossible. Now, I know there's many people in this room who can see the invisible. Each one of you should be doing the impossible and are. So, thank you. I'm not excluding anyone from that statement. Seeing the invisible, therefore, means the relationship between one's viewing point and the factors that create a person's life, experience, are personalized because we make it about us. So the question is to see or not to see. Life is abundant. It's only in your sense of separation that you feel something is threatening, limited, fragmented. Science of mind. A sense of separation from good causes us to feel restricted, while a sense of unity with good changes the currents of causation and brings happier conditions into the experience. Whatever supports your ability to be present in life, to embrace everything, it serves you, but it also serves all of humanity. And it's no small endeavor. For it's this reason that you have difficulty sometimes showing up in your own life. Sometimes we avoid meeting life face to face. Don't want to go there. Have you become hardened to your life and to others? Resistant to change? Or skillful at avoiding conflict? What is it that supports your defensiveness, your negativity, insecurity, and codependence? You have life experiences. Life experiences don't have you. They're independent from you. Your soul moves towards these challenges because they stretch each one of us in separate ways. They remove the falsehoods, the dependencies from our consciousness. What you discover is you aren't your experiences. You're much greater than that. It's a huge distinction. I am not my experiences. That's a key principle in discovering our wholeness. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. That's a quote from Anonymous. Anonymous used to be something I was scared of when I was working in corporate America. There was a group called Anonymous that was threatening to break into all the computers. But for this Anonymous, something better. I have another quote from Anonymous. It is a lack of love for ourselves that inhibits our compassion toward others. If we make friends with ourselves, then there's no obstacle to opening our hearts and minds to others. That Anonymous is pretty wise. From Science of Mind. Anything that enables us to express greater life, greater happiness, greater power, so long as it doesn't harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. As much of life as one can conceive will then become a part of his/her experience. So the challenge is to become present. We transform the challenges in our life, and it requires us the ability to become present to life with greater courage and greater strength, which we can't develop without having a good personal relationship with self. We have yet to discover the tremendous power of the presence of God at our center. It's the very core of life's existence. Science of Mind. Fear is the great enemy of man. But fear is only a mental attitude, and as such can be converted into something else. Fear is the reverse mental attitude to faith and is the result of the lack of faith. So what does fear stand for?
False evidence appearing real.
Say again?
False evidence appearing real.
I thought it was forget everything and run. I like Sharon's interpretation much better. I've seen it, that, and I've also seen it as forget everything and rise. Rise to the occasion. Between that and Sharon's, I love that one the better. False evidence appearing real. Remember, the enemy is a reflection of your belief that someone or something is against you. Your belief is not true. False evidence. Nor is it true that the person or situation is against you. So how do you deal with the perception of having an enemy? Number one, look in the mirror. Love yourself. Think of the person or situation as a mirror of that place in you where you're not connected to your wholeness and your worth. If you were connected, you couldn't be intimidated or threatened. Couldn't do it. Step two, bless them. When we bless, we acknowledge that person or thing as a source of good in our lives. You can make it mean good by speaking kindly of the person or the circumstances. Blessing your enemies helps you dismantle any thought that your enemy is against you. What you call your enemy is simply the mirror to that place inside of you where you no longer feel connected to spirit. Do the right thing. Do good. Doing the right thing means that you let go of needing to be right and focused your attention on what you can do to demonstrate your wholeness and worth in that relationship. Your way is right for you. My way is right for me. The right thing to do is not about winning, not about defeating your enemy or even looking good. It's about taking authentic action about what's missing in the relationship. Now, I promised Jeannie I was going to quote an Amish proverb. This is the first time I've relied on my Pennsylvania roots and gone back to the Amish for this thought. Instead of putting someone in their place, put yourself in their place. I like that. You like that one, Jeannie? Instead of putting someone in their place, put yourself in their place. The old Native American cliche, walk a mile in someone else's moccasins. You'll see. So set yourself and your enemy free. One final and ultimate way to set yourself and your enemy free. Pray for them. The final stop in dealing with any condition, situation, or person as your enemy is prayer. Pray for those who spitefully use you or persecute you. I have a quote from Yasmin Mogahed. I found it online. I'm not sure who Yasmin Mogahed is. Compassion is to look beyond your own pain to see the pain of others. So it's important to remember that the relationship or situation is not against you. It is for you. It's there to give you a gift, inviting you to embrace your own wholeness and life. Just a reminder, when the Master Jesus was on the cross, he prayed for his enemies. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And for one final thought, I'll quote the great philosopher of our time, not Oprah, Prince. Compassion is an action word with no boundaries. Namaste.
Namaste.